Yeah, and some weeks I'm surprised that it's high. Some weeks I'm surprised it's low. It kind of
Right.
fluctuates. Anywhere
Yeah,
kind of between 20 and 30, I'd say right now.
that's great, right? And if you concentrate on looking at your database, going through, and then just while you're out and about, it's a matter of, what conversations can I have,
Making
right?
the
And
effort.
yeah, and but consciously making the effort because this is a conversational business, right?
Yep.
So, and if you can't remember or you forgot what the live flow is, that is where you are actively trying to have meaningful communication with individuals. It's not sending an email, it's conversations, text, direct messaging, things like that. And one of the tasks is looking at and monitoring how many a week you're actually trying. Target is 50, but obviously in smaller communities, that may be harder to do. Looking at, what things can you attend that you could be, in front of people you could have conversations with, going through your database and looking for communication opportunities that you haven't had before or thought you were in communication with people, but you're really only emailing or drip campaigns. So that's great, Kathy. Good. And you need to track it because it does something. If you didn't track it, and when I first asked the question, lots of you had no idea. I don't think I'm talking to that many people. Yet when you start tracking it, the reason to track it is you need to see, okay, if I'm talking to 20 people a week, what kind of opportunities are coming out of the 20? If there's stuff coming out of it, you're going, okay, this is good. But if all of a sudden it's like, you know what, out of 20, I'm really not seeing the opportunities, then you really need to try and push that to 30. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else tracking it or, yeah, Julia?
I did start tracking it. I was surprised that I was doing more work than I thought I was. So that that helps. I think it pushed me to make more contact and better contact. Um, I think it's a useful exercise. I think I'm going to continue to track it. I set up a spreadsheet to track the 8 of 8, but I haven't started
Okay,
it. So that's my status.
good. Okay. And then another exercise that we were doing was the auto flow, putting together the auto flow chart, putting together how many times a month your auto flow is going to take place. The target was 3, right? Has anybody started that? Actually, put together the chart and started doing. Okay, guys, fill us in.
Herbert helped me make an email to my Lofty base,
Okay.
and we sent it out. And then within 5 minutes, someone got back to me interested in buying a place.
Excuse me, say that again.
Within 5 minutes, like I walked through my
In
office
5 minutes, yeah.
to here, and someone emailed me back.
So you went through the contacts in your Lofty CRM, you put together an email, you sent out an email, and within 5 minutes, somebody said, "Hey, I'm interested."
Yeah.
Ooh, I'd be doing that more often. Right?
Do it again today.
That's the whole idea of this,
Whole idea.
right? And so now putting together those, look at what are those 3? Should be 3 a month, okay, of the auto flow. And they should just be set it and forget it. And
So
obviously
just
monitor.
to add to that, so what we did was for everybody here, if you want to do the same thing on Amazon, we bought a large calendar that we can write on. And what we did is we planned every Thursday we're doing something. So every Thursday, either a e-newsletter is going to be sent out, or this Thursday, actually tomorrow, we're going to be delivering a newsletter and delivering it to the area that we're going to pick. And so that way, every week something's laid out and we got to do it because it's written down and now we see it. And now we're accountable. Matthew and I are now accountable because we got to do it. We wrote it down. So it's something for you guys too, because that helped me a lot in my previous business, having a visual calendar with things that I got to do helps out a lot.
Yeah,
If
I
it's
think
not
Nancy,
written, it's not real.
exactly. Because I believe Nancy does a fair bit of a whole board behind her desk that she tracks everything and uses it. And one of the things to understand, okay, in this business, in any sales business, you can't get focused on the result. If you can only get focused on the result, then you're never going to get to doing the activities to get to the result because you're going to get so frustrated. Okay. So your focus needs to be on the activity. So the activity of making, that's why we're doing this, having this kind of conversation is to make sure you're doing the activities. Okay. Doing the auto flow, doing the live flow, because those activities will get results. But lots of times, especially in real estate, agents get frustrated because they're not seeing a result they're not seeing any results. But you have to understand, if you start doing these activities and consistently, it takes 90 days. If you see a result before the 90 days, you've done really well. So the plan always is to make sure your activities, and that's why you always hear me talk about track your daily activities, track your weekly activities. And that's why doing these tracking of 8 and 8 and live flow and the conversations, auto flow is really to get you in good habits of doing your daily and weekly activities. The results will come. Okay. So really important that you're doing that. And really important that you hear about, somebody put out email and guess what? Got an inquiry. Okay. So good stuff on that. Now, on the note of what else you could put out, in case you're looking for something to send to your clients, the Korea put out an update. Okay, so if you actually just go to Korea and just go to Korea updates, so basically they put a Canadian forecast out. Simple, easy. It talks about the Canadian Real Estate Association has updated its 2026 forecast for home sales activity, average home prices via the multiple listing service, systems in Canadian real estate boards, associations, and they do an extended outlook to include 2027. Okay, it's an easy read. It's real, goes into it, has some charts, an easy item that should be one of your 3. Okay. So you can find that. I did send it to Michelle, so we'll send it out. But if you want to get the actual copy of it yourself, just go to the Canadian Real Estate Association and you can just Google Canadian forecast 2026, 2027. Okay. But if you're looking for one of those 3 pieces that you could put out, Korea does have great information that is information, doesn't talk about buying, like it just talks about the activity and the forecast. Anybody that's thinking about real estate, this would be good information for them. Okay. So those would be the kind of research that make sure you go on to your board news, your area, go on to Korea, because there is so much information there that you can utilize and put into that auto flow. Okay.
Scott, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
I just noticed Don Potter, our newest realtor, has joined us. So I'd like everyone
welcome,
to meet
Don.
Don.
That's great. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I think I had a chance to meet a lot of you yesterday on Michelle's call, but Scott, we haven't met yet. Don Potter, working with Kathy Hay in Winchester, brand new to the industry, but already learning a lot from both the local and regional groups. So looking forward to working with y'all.
Great. Welcome. Glad you're part of us. Okay, what's going on in the market? Fill me in. Since we haven't chatted in 2 weeks. I can tell you what's going on, but I want to hear from you guys. Yes, Nancy.
I sold one on the weekend.
Fabulous. Which one?
Long story. It's in South River. I actually sold it to this guy in October, and the listing agent wouldn't extend the sale of his home condition. His home is in Brantford. His home in Brantford sold firm on Friday. We put a firm offer in on Saturday. Done.
Great. Well done. Well done. Dawn, you had your hand up?
No, she was clapping.
Oh, you were clapping. Sorry.
No, that was quite applause.
Yeah, okay. I just saw a quick yellow.
So sorry. So they wanted to buy it. The seller didn't want to wait for the buyer's home to sell, so it just stayed on the market. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. We did buy it. He did the home inspection, like he did everything. And then when we didn't sell, well, he didn't sell his house in Brantford. The deal went south, and we did a mutual release that Al
Oh,
Riley
I
was kind enough to sign. Yeah, but then his house did sell in Brantford, so we were able to put a firm offer in because he had already done the home inspection. He had already all of that was already finished.
Did you get the same price as
Super.
last time, or did you come in lower with a firm offer?
We went in lower with the firm offer, and they came
Awesome.
back at the end of it. We got it for $3,000 less.
That's okay.
That's a win.
Super.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well
Win is
done.
a win. Yeah.
Hey, anybody else? Any other successes, new listings?
I had 2 new listings last week that I got up on the market and went firm on 3 of my transactions.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
it was a
So,
good
Kathy,
week.
what's selling? What is it you're selling there? What are the buyers looking for?
Oh, well, my 2 new listings, one is a bungalow on the Nation River, which isn't much of a river, but
Yeah.
the other one is a farm, a 96-acre farm, and it has 2 homes on it. And then the stuff that I was selling are just pretty regular homes between 5 and 600. So,
Okay. Okay.
and
Super. Well
funny
done.
enough, the 3 of them were all linked. Like the one of Gladstone bought Church, one of Church bought Shaw Road. So they were all linked. So if one
All
fell
linked
apart, they
together.
all fell apart.
That's okay. They didn't fall
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah.
That's great. Super. Okay. Anybody starting to hear, seeing multiple offers on certain properties again? Okay. At least in the GTA right now, we are just in the last 10 days, starting where buyers are coming off the sidelines. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, the interest rate didn't change. Prediction is it's not going to go any lower. And that even with Korea's forecast, it talks about by the end of this year, a modest price increase, modest price gain. Okay. So what that does is it starts taking people that were on the sidelines and go, okay, this might be the bottom. And so what takes place though is we will, and I've talked to different agents that, had multiple offers on solar, and one last night an agent I was with last night was working on one. And out of 4 offers, all of them were below the asking price. Okay. But what it did is, again, that where you have some that are way off, and all you're looking to do is work with one, right? And push that one to the max. But it's interesting how I noticed it in Thornhill, Richmond Hill, certain parts of the GTA, where the pricing right now that is anywhere from 600 to about $1 million seems to be where the activity is. And that activity in the GTA is first time buyers. Okay. So, which is a natural transition from what we always would see is where the first ones off the bench, let's call it, in the start of the spring market are the first time buyers. So make sure you reach out if you haven't been reaching out to some of those, past leads that you've had, or make sure you're doing some of your marketing to focus on first time buyers because they're the ones right now that are active. Okay, so make sure you're doing that if you haven't been doing it, because that's where the activity is now started. Okay, yeah, Nancy.
I find that after the rate announcement the other day, I've had several calls from buyers, and it's nice because three of those calls were on three of my different vacant land. My tiny home, I got a call on my tiny home,
Okay, yeah.
which is good. So I find that the
Yeah.
buyers are starting to surface.
And the reason they're surfacing is because, again, there is some information about the market is starting to have change momentum. Now, when we look at this, we lost momentum February 2022. That was the peak. Okay. Since then, we've had a little bit of a bumpy ride down, 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 with some little bit of momentum for a short period of time, and then again continues down. So now what we're looking at, that's been 4 years, if you look at that time frame. So, and if you look at the actual timing of go backwards, and we always look at it, and it always was, if we are in a down cycle for so many years, or we're in an up cycle for so many years, the other cycle would be similar, almost mirrored. Well, if you go back from 2022 to 2018, 18, 19, 20, 21, that was a strong period of time. Okay, we had momentum going. If you look at the previous, now we're down for 4 years, so it's almost mirrored. So now it's starting to make sense why we're going to start seeing a little bit more momentum. Okay, is it going to go crazy? No, and we're going to get little blips, but you need to be letting people know. Okay. We were at a conference, and we're going to go through some of the stuff from the conference, but I really track and want to understand the new developments because of the project that we were doing at Sherwood Town that got delayed. We had at this conference, we had Tridel, which is one of the biggest pre-construction companies for condominiums in the GTA. And it was interesting because they did a panel of pre-construction builders and brokerages that only focus on pre-construction. And I was hearing this, but they confirmed it. In the pre-construction right now, there's about usually anywhere from 15 to 20,000 units in the GTA that were coming to being finished. Okay. Because of this delay, because people have delayed it, or they've canceled projects, or they've switched it from being condominiums to purpose-built rentals, in 2029, right now, in the GTA, actually approved units that will be finished and coming to market, 697. Down from a peak of over 20,000. Okay. So, which means in 2029, there is going to be a shortage of actual condominiums available. Okay. It also means that 2030, 2031 are going to have a bit more, because when you look at the condominium marketplace, you actually got to back it up about 7 years. 2 years to get the approvals, 5 years to build it, occupancy, and final closing. Okay. So now if you look at this and go, okay, well, if there's only 697 of them that are going to be in 2029, supply and demand is all that real estate is. There's nothing fancy about it. If there's less listings and more buyers, prices go up. If there's more listings and less buyers, prices go down. That's all. That's simple. Okay. Economics 101. So, which means now, if you look at 2029, at that number, condominium values have nowhere else to go but up. So, today is a great time to look at buying a condo or talking to investors or having some kind of information about the condo market, because lots of buyers are basically saying, oh, no, I don't want a condo. Condos have crashed. Well, here's the interesting part. Tridel is selling, yeah, they have some individual users. In the last 60 days, they've had different investment companies, real estate investment trust companies, investment firms buying up 20 and 30 units at a time of their new stock, of their new build outs. So I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Those people have way more people doing research than we could ever do, but I don't mind following people if they're going to be doing that. So they would not invest that much capital. So you're talking 20 units. So they're investing anywhere between 10 and $15 million into the condo market, current condo market. They know 2 to 3 years from now, the values are going to go up. So interesting to look behind the scenes of where, yeah, we're hearing how bad the condo market is, yet behind the actual scenes, there's big transactions going on. So I highly recommend that if you're, anybody in the condo market, anybody thinking about an investment, builders right now have huge incentives they're giving. They also have some new build outs. They have some inventory, standing inventory. So no matter where you are in Ontario, look around and just make sure you're up to speed on what condo projects are going on, even if they're small ones, because that market is going to come back. Okay. Anybody has any more insight? Yeah, Julia?
I think that's a really good message for downsizers, because if we're seeing single family homes doing better, especially the smaller end, and people want to downsize to a condo, maybe, just to stay in the market, have a place to stay while they travel when they're retired. That's a really good message.
Yeah. So it's so I know the stigma with the condo market, right? That's where it's been. So let's get ahead of this. Get your messaging out there. Do some research, and you'll hear about. Reach out to some of these pre-con developers. Anybody that's got condominiums, and just say, hey, is there an opportunity? What do you got? Can I advertise? Just get in that marketplace and understand it, because there is opportunity there. Okay. The great opportunity is if you have anybody that has university students right now, kids, okay? Or that they've just got their first job, graduated. This would be a perfect opportunity for the family to buy something to invest in as a group to start off for that individual. Okay. Just a matter how you present it. Because the builders did say, which was interesting, they are having a lot of their transactions are for parents that are buying for other family members. Okay. Any other thoughts on that particular item? No? Okay. Just some interesting, one of the things they were doing at the conference was, they were basically talking about bold tips. They were saying, okay, and now at this conference were 700 realtors from all over, some from BC, some from Alberta, one from France, one or two from Australia, lots from Eastern Canada as well. And they had different panels, they had open discussions, really good event. And so what was interesting is the biggest message that came out of it was, right now, Client experience is the new lead generation. Okay. How the client talks about you is your brand. So you really need to make sure, okay, that when you're dealing with clients, do not make it transactional. If they feel that they're just another number, then how are they talking about you? What's their messaging? Okay. And this is where really, really important, and Nancy does a great job of this. Get those testimonials. Get your business page working for you. Okay. That's where they're going. They're either going on, if they're going on AI, then they're going, okay, give me the top realtors in this neighborhood. And you better make sure that your Google page is one of them. Okay, your business page. Nancy, just want to share with us, how are you doing with that?
Like as far as what my Google page?
Yeah, because I know you've worked really hard at making sure you get testimonials, you make sure you're getting your ratings.
Yeah, I just ask. I'm sorry, I'm a little off today.
That's okay.
Yeah, I just ask. I just, keep in touch with my clients and make sure I get the testimonials.
Perfect. Okay. So then that's where you have to understand now, where prior to this change in the market, in all fairness, most of the realtors were just order takers. It was the consumer was doing their research. If you happen to have a listing, they were like, okay, can we go see it? Okay. When can we get there? Now, with the welcome to a normal marketplace, welcome to being in the real estate business now. And so client testimonials, client experience, that is where everything is at. The other part, which was interesting, is be cautious that you're not just trying to work with another transaction. Understand that not every person that's going to contact you about doing real estate is going to be a right fit for you to work with. Okay. So one of the comments came up is what you tolerate becomes your standard. Okay. So no boundaries, discounted fees, accepting disrespect. Know the moment you stop tolerating any of it, you level up. So what they mean by that is if you're doing all your stuff, right? If you're doing the activities, you choose on who you want to work with. You choose on how your day is going to look. You choose on when you're going to show something. Okay. And that's really important because if you are doing your daily, weekly activities, the results are going to come, but you can control it way better than all of a sudden you haven't had any business for a while and you get a small lead or inquiry and you drop everything thinking, okay, this is the winner. This is the winner for me, right? Yet you have to make sure you put your standards in place. How are you qualifying? How are you asking the questions before you just hop in your car and go show them something? Okay. So that was one interesting thing because there was a lot of talk of how, real estate, or I guess social media influencers and all this big lead gen stuff, on how lots of it wasn't being qualified. It was like just playing a numbers game, doing that transactional instead of doing the relationship. Okay. So make sure that you have your steps in place. You know how you want to run your business. Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody experienced that? Yep. Yeah.
A couple months ago, I had a client that I painted her house and she was listing right after. We're talking about it. I did not like her and she's just not a nice person. And I kind of just walked away from it. And I was so happy about it as well, because I knew if I'd taken that on, it had been a nightmare. And I believe it, even in my painting business, that business is a two-way street. And we're not just there to serve people like servants. Like it's got to be.
Got to work together.
Fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
And that client too told him everything he needed to know in terms of what type of seller she was going to be, right?
Yeah.
She wanted a crazy high price for the property. She wanted these, very strict things. And he's like, I don't want to take that on.
She didn't she didn't want to give any commission out even to the other side and just
Yeah,
very difficult.
telling you everything you needed to know.
Yeah. Okay. Nasir?
Just yesterday, I dropped a client. They're pharmacists from Calgary. So obviously qualified. It's all on LinkedIn, and that's how I found them
Okay.
from LinkedIn.
From LinkedIn. Okay, good.
So they approached me a few months ago, and she said, "I'm not ready, but when you are, we'll let you know." Then the husband and her calls me. We've been pre-approved for 2 properties, one in Calgary, one in Toronto. 400,000 in Calgary, 500,000 up to maximum 500 downtown Toronto. They were coming tonight at 2 a.m. Wednesday night. So Thursday morning was my bookings. Like I was started. So as soon as that happened, I sent them the RICO information guide. I said, please send me your legal names, IDs. They didn't want to give me IDs.
Okay.
I said, okay, give me your IDs by text, by name, just your full name by text, and then later I can scan your license. No, not even by text, you're the full name. I know her full name because she's on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But her husband goes with short name. I knew it was a longer name. I need a full name, just filling it out. No. So I waited a day just to cool off because I was getting very angry. And then the next morning I said, look, I'm sorry, but they were saying it's not a RICO requirement for RICO information guide to give IDs. I said it is, but at the time of transaction, we do need it before I do the transaction. And they said they would do that. So I said, it's our company policy, and the buyer agency is not a mandatory thing until we do buy the property. I said, but I'm showing you as your representative, so I need to know something. Am I representing you or not?
Yeah.
And a few weeks before that, she had told me other agents are very pushy and this and that. And when we want to give a low offer, they don't want to take it. And I said, no, in this market, you have to try and keep the offer alive. So I knew they were dealing with other agents.
Mhm.
So I just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And it's like $400,000 condos in downtown, small, they want to buy and rent it out.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, so unfortunately I can't assist you, but if you're willing to, go ahead with a buyer agency agreement, because I even said, so you expect me to drive you around on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
And I don't mind that. That's my job. But you don't want to give me your IDs even.
Yeah.
Right? LOL.
Yeah.
And I left it that night, and the next day I said, sorry, I want to. So they said, okay, remove because I already started the auto email.
Right.
They'd already accepted that part.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll delete that. I'll remove that. And they said, okay, thank you. That's it.
And that's good.
I mean,
So you have to set your boundaries on who do you want to work with? How do you want to work with them? Because some of the best listings and some of the best clients were the ones I didn't take. And some of the ones that I thought, okay, well, I think I can work with this person, became a friggin' nightmare to the point, and understand, I've been doing this a while, to the point where I literally fired them.
Yeah.
And said, here's your mutual release, go work with somebody else.
Bye-bye.
I don't care. Here's your key. I took my sign and said, I'm out.
Yeah.
Good luck. Right? So really understand, you set on how and who you want to work with. Okay? You'll enjoy the business more, but you can only do that if you are consistently creating business by leads, networking, whatever. Okay? Okay. Scripting affects your direct result. If your brain doesn't know the language, it will stutter, pause, and stop. 60% conversion at listing presentations when following a script. Okay, so we've talked about make sure that you practice, you have a presentation. You don't have to memorize it, obviously, but going into any type of appointment, a listing appointment, buyer presentation, any type of negotiation, make sure that you've practiced it. The consumers all have the same questions. It's like they go online and go, what questions should I ask my realtor? You guys should be doing that, right? Go on AI and go, I'm a new buyer. What questions should I ask my realtor? And they'll basically spill out all the questions that the consumers are going to ask you. Make sure you have that in your presentation. Make sure you practice scripts. There's all kinds of scripts we have for all of the different questions you're going to get from both buyers and sellers. Okay. The interesting part came up, why this is here is because the top realtors, they know, and they basically said, when we go in and we're prepped and we had everything and we follow our plan, we know our scripts, we're way more successful than the ones that we didn't prep, we rushed into and didn't get. Okay, and I know we've talked about that on this call before, but if you haven't, make sure your presentation's up to date. Make sure you're following, and it's okay to have, you don't have to memorize everything. Your presentation could be on an iPad, it could be on hard copy. You're okay to follow along, have them follow along with you and just go, here's some of the questions I want to ask. Okay. Make sure the more you practice, okay, the more successes you're going to have rather than just winging it. Okay. Any comments? Yeah.
Yeah, just the having your notes and stuff. So when I started, you would come on showings with me.
Mhm.
And just because you knew the buildings we were going to and you knew the questions that were going to be asked, you just were able to answer any questions without looking at Realm or looking at your notes or anything like that. And I'm not very good at that. I am still relatively new, so I don't know a lot of the buildings off by heart or anything like that. I don't know how to tell different flooring by what it is. So I do take notes before all my showings. And I had showings on Monday. And this is someone I've worked with before, but I had my notes. And, we go into the condo and we start walking around and I get his general idea of the condo. And then I'm like, okay, so a few things about the condo. And he's like, yes, read them all. Let's go. Like he was excited to hear about it. He didn't care that I had notes. He didn't care that it wasn't memorized. He just cared that I knew the information and I was able to answer his questions about the flooring and the square feet and the exposure. So don't be afraid to have notes.
Right. So what preparation does is it gives you confidence. Okay. So get prepped, practice, get prepped, because that will then give you confidence, gives you certainty, you come across better, and the client has a better experience. All the things you do in this business, if you're in this business for a while, that's the way you want to do it. Don't make it transactional. Okay. Leaders pivot, they don't panic. Okay. Not the talk they have with themselves is why, not why is this happening to me, but where is the opportunity in this situation? Okay. So really, again, what gets into is mindset. And the reason, if you can have good mindset is really simple. Okay. You got to get up, you got to have a plan, you got to prep, you got to make sure you do your activities, you analyze, you chart, you look at your numbers, stuff's going to happen. Okay. So that's where looking at the opportunities in something. So instead of going like, why did that person not list with me? I thought I did a great presentation. Should be okay. Well, let me look at how did I do on that presentation, but you better be damn honest with yourself. Don't think, oh, I did a great job. Obviously, you know what? There's a reason why they went with somebody else, but look at that as an opportunity. Look at that as saying, okay, could I have done something different? Do I need to tweak something? Instead of getting down on yourself, go out and get another presentation. Okay. One of the things that they were talking about is you need to lead the conversation. Understanding, and we've talked about it, consumers will do a whole bunch of research before they contact a realtor. Okay. So people are very well informed. So what is it that they're reading? What is it that they're looking at? What are they hearing and reading in the news? We talked about it a little bit this morning about, get ahead of it. Be the one that's providing the most up-to-date information and in your opinion and why. Okay? Go to where the consumers are going to go. Make sure you see what they're seeing. Okay? What that does, it gives you confidence. You can speak to it. This was one that was, Michelle may want to talk about this one more. They were really focusing in on entrepreneurs, so agents, top agents that actually own and understand AI will grow exponentially because they're using it as a tool. They're not letting it run their business. Okay. So where bright, shiny things now are AI can do everything. It can go, it can talk to people, it can book appointments for you. Well, what's actually happening in real life with a lot of these top producers is, yeah, they're using it as a tool. It's not replacing the realtor and won't. What it will replace is the realtor that doesn't adopt it in any way, because that's where the consumers are going. Okay, you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, we did talk about this a bit yesterday for anyone that was on the social media power hour. AI, they really talked about as a teammate and a tool, and not so much over, as you said, overtaking your business, being the forward-facing part of your business. A little AI fatigue is kind of what we're talking about. The content that you're seeing online. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. How many people have been duped by an AI picture or video recently? I have. Yeah. So people are already getting tired of seeing fake stuff online. So as much fun as it is to, generate yourself as, some realtor on the moon or putting a for sale sign on Mars or whatever it may be, people just want to see you. And to use AI the way that top producers are using it, you use it as a tool in the back end. You use it as somewhere to put your ideas, to generate larger content from your brain. You have an idea, you have a strategy that you want to take on, but you don't know how to execute it. Put your ideas into ChatGPT, into Gemini, get a blueprint for what you should be saying, what you should be doing.
Yeah, and I know Elroy just disappeared, but I know Elroy has used AI in the back end of his website system. But I know he's always been looking at how do I make it more me versus it being more a robot kind of thing, right?
And actually, Julia had a really good point.
Okay.
About that. Hi, Julia.
We started talking about you and you disappeared.
I was listening. I had to walk away for a second.
But
yeah,
Julia,
that's how I do use the tool. I don't want it to sound like a robot. I want it to sound like me. And I watch it actively. When I see it engaging with somebody, I jump in and shut it off.
Good. And then you take over because now that's the okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Julia, do you want to share kind of what you've been working with? What you talked about yesterday, kind of making that the AI sound more like you and how you're doing that?
You're on mute.
So I did I was doing this kind of Instagram social media course online that I have, and I was just kind of reviewing it. I had done it before, but I was trying to refresh so I could get things going. And what they said was to write some details about yourself and about your business, the kind of clients you work in, just everything, throw in it, interests, the whole bit, and have AI establish a profile for you that you want to speak as. And before you ask it to create anything in your voice, post that AI description that they came up with you and ask it to use it specifically. And then the output will be faster. They won't have to ask you other questions like, do you want this to be more of a luxury real estate thing? Or do you want this to be, that's what happens. You ask AI and then ask you a bunch of questions for tailoring. If you do it right away, then you get your answer and it sounds way more like you. So
Great. Okay.
I
Well,
just
here's the
keep that little profile, and every time I ask it something, I post it and say, do this and use the description above as your voice.
perfect. Okay. Another point, speaking of posting and doing all that, no one is going to hire someone who is doom and gloom. You've got to be positive. 97% of consumers are looking at what you are posting. Okay. So just make sure when you are posting stuff out there, okay, make it positive, make it upbeat. Don't be slamming oh, this market is crap and I don't know why anybody's in this business, or 5,000 realtors left the business because they couldn't hack it. Not exactly a post you want to be putting out there. Okay.
I liked the analogy at the conference. I thought it was pretty funny. One of the MCs was saying, you know, if I was interested in getting Botox and I start researching these companies in my area and I see that company A, B, and C are all sharing this thing about how many people get botched Botox or how many people suffer ailments from bad Botox injections or how many companies are going under because they can't afford to keep up with all this stuff. She said, I'm going to choose them. I'm going to choose the one that's posting about how great they are and what they've done recently and the testimonials, the results from their clients, stuff like that. She's like, that's the one I'm going to trust.
Right. And that was the big thing at this conference was client relationships all come down to trust. And we've talked about this. No one is going to do business with you until they like you and trust you. Okay. I don't care how much you want to put out there. They've got to like you and trust you before anybody will do any business with you. That should be your focus. And actually, Julia, back to your point about the AI part, one of the things that was talked about is your brand is your identity. Okay. So what part of you enters the room before you do? What do they know about you before they even get to have a conversation with you or get to meet you? Okay. That's your brand identity. It's not the card you're carrying. It's not all the accolades. It's what impressions are they getting about you, okay, before you get the opportunity to give them one. Okay, so keep that in mind. When do you think is the best, what is the best market to build your business? Julia?
The best market to what? Sorry?
Build
Obviously,
your
this
business.
This one.
this is, I mean, a tough market is a good time to start building your brand because you need to fill the gaps with work. But the second question is every market, but
Actually, the down market is where good professional realtors will gain market share.
yeah.
And they will be able to hold that market share as long as they continue to do the right things. Okay. So if you feel that this is a crap market and you're putting that out there and that's what your mindset is, well, it is going to be a crap market for you. You get up, you have a plan, you work your plan, the results will happen, and you focus on doing more business. We talked about doubling down on your database. Since then, I have booked lunches. I got one today with a past client of mine who, has referred business. Haven't connected with them in 3 or 4 months. So I'm going to call them up. And ironically, we're on WhatsApp, I said, hey, it's been a while, haven't got together. Any chance next week you got time for lunch? He said, I don't know what the hell you were thinking. I was just about to send you the same message. Okay. That's the start or my continuation of flow with him. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to send me 2 deals this year. Okay. He doesn't know it yet. He's going to find a little bit today, but I'm going to have him in my flow. I guarantee by the end of this year, I'm going to get 2 deals from him. Okay, that's how you have to think about it. Okay, so that is why in a down market, you have better time to build the relationships. Realtors that can't hack it are leaving the business. So that percentage that they were taking away from the marketplace is now available for good realtors. Okay. You have time to cultivate more deep relationships, build that referral business, really focus on your live flow. Okay. This is a great opportunity right now, but you have to focus on it daily. You have to have that plan. And that's why we keep talking about, the auto flow, the live flow, the 8 and 8, that kind of stuff. That's what builds the business. That's what attracts the relationships. Okay. Any comments on that? Okay. Yeah.
I have like few of my clients have been asking all the time, how's the market? How's the market? I'm hearing a lot of negativity. I said, if you price a property right, no matter what the market is, based on that market condition, it's not slow at all. Like once you price it right, it sells. Properties always sell, like usually very quickly if it's priced right. So then they say, okay, that makes sense because some of these houses in my street have been on the market for 6 months. So the one I listed is overpriced, just so you know. She's not in a rush till March or April or May even to move. So she said, let's try. I said, okay, trying is one thing, but it'll just make it look bad on the market. But I know she'll reduce. So then one got just sold for, and it was 157 days on the market. So she said, can you find out how much it sold for in a center? I said, you noticed they had it on the market for almost since November or October last year for 6 months now, almost, or whatever it was, 150. So she said, yeah, that makes sense. And I said, that's what it is. It was overpriced. When they priced it right, bingo, right away it sold within a few weeks. So it actually made her open her eyes more, that's how it is. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Any other comments? How are we doing for time? 5 minutes? Okay. I'll go through a few more of these. One of the other items came up, and when they were talking about online stuff, make sure that what you're posting, okay, this is where you have to understand how fast people are scrolling. Are you just posting entertainment stuff? Or are you actually putting information out that will convert to a conversion? Okay, so think about when you're posting. So be serious about it. It's fine to have some other light stuff, but the message should be, majority of the time, your message has got to be, how can you get that person to engage, to be convert them? Okay. Versus just putting a bunch of information out that's entertainment. They scroll through it. There's no reason for them to stop. So think about the messaging when you're putting it out there. Okay. Niche market is a powerful way to stand out. So geo-farming, waterfront properties, certain, condominiums, if that's what you're focusing on, or if you're just focusing on renters, are you focusing on, but the reason they mean a niche market is because to be in a niche market, you need to be knowledgeable about that niche. You can't fake being in a niche market. So if you're going to go into a niche market, you become the expert in that niche. That builds trust. That creates transactions. Okay. Other thing to keep in mind, and we've talked about it, really look at your time. Okay. Easy to waste time in this business. Easy to get your time wasted depending on the people that you're communicating with, right? Easy to get distracted. Make sure you go back to your calendar. Make sure you're putting in your personal time, your holiday time, and your hours that you're going to work. And I can't tell you how many times at this conference, when the panelists were up there, they said, you give me an agent that'll work 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, I'll turn them into one of the top 1% realtors. Most agents don't do that. Okay. Biggest thing, everyone is relationship or transactional. Relationship business is more profitable. That's what we're talking about, okay? This number threw me, and that's why we really upped our game on how many touches. 55 touches a year for relationship-based business. Used to be 26. 55. Okay? I found that number that really high. So, okay. The biggest one that was here is your biggest risk is not taking one. Regret is riskier than any action. Okay. Which means that you can think about it all you want. How many items when you're looking at your business are you analyzing, or how many agents do you know that keep talking about, yeah, well, if I think I'm going to do this, I think I'm going to do that, instead of actually going like, here's the ledge. I got my plan. I got it all figured out. Take that first step. Okay. That is where the top producers in this business and continue to be, is they always look at, you know, what is the next way I can take a chance, take the risk of growing my business. But it's not the fact that it's a risk. It's all analyzed. They look at it and go, okay, I see this is where the market is going. They figure out how to be there. Okay. And sometimes that means leaving some stuff behind or changing what you're doing, changing your work habits. Okay. So that is one of the biggest things. Okay. The only difference between you and the top producers in the industry isn't the knowledge. Do you know what it is? Tell me what it is.
Consistency.
Action. Top producers have a plan. They work the plan, results happen. Are you working a plan, or are you just winging it? Yep, Nancy, are you winging it, or are you how about it?
I'm winging it with my listing presentation. We all know that. But like I've said several times in our meetings over the past, year or so, was the information, well, the words of wisdom that I got from somebody I met early on in my career about stop planning on working and just work.
Yeah, action.
That's pretty much what you
Action.
just said. Like, it's the same idea.
I can tell you, I'm an old guy that's been in this business a while. Okay. Started in 1980. I can tell you, and ironically, Michelle brought her little notebook and she has everything in there. There are speakers up there, they're talking about stuff, and she flips to one page. She said, yeah, we covered that. Yeah, we covered that. I said, hey, there's no magic. The systems have not changed. Selling real estate in 1980, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2020s, 2030s doesn't change. The tools certainly have, and become really, I talked with an agent yesterday and he said, Scott, do you remember the day that the fax machine came in? We had to fax something. That saved us from driving. He said, now, he says, I can't get the realtors to come into my office because everything's online. They sit back, they do this. He said, I said, yeah, it's just a different tool. It's still a relationship business. That is not going to change. Okay. So have the action plan, work your plan, you will have great results. Okay. But if you're just going to wing it, unfortunately, you're going to be like most realtors, in all fairness, will have this. Is this up and down? And that's because they're not doing the continuous action. I think on that note, we're pretty well at our time. All I can say is you all have a passion for this. Make sure that's coming through. Okay? Consumers want to deal with people that are positive, have confidence, treat them with respect. let them know things and be able to say to them, you know what, this property really isn't for you. Don't try to make it transactional. And if that's your main focus, track your numbers. So between now and next week, track your numbers. How many live flows are you doing? How many auto flows have gone out? Because I am going to ask. Right? Okay. Any last comments before we sign off? Okay. Don, this was your first one of these, right?
It was, yes. Yeah.
Okay, I want your impression. Are we doing something right, or what do we need to change?
You're being recorded, Don, by the way.
You're doing everything right. No, this was very valuable. Some of the terminology, the 8 and the auto flow is I'm not familiar with, so I'm gonna have to come up to speed on kind of some of the terminology and action plans you've been using. But no, this has been very useful, and my background is in technology sales, and a lot of the principles for prospecting and building a pipeline are similar in terms of positive, continuous activity, planning for a year out, 2 years out, well in advance, and just always being out there and connecting with people all the time. So there's a little bit of familiarity, but it sounds like the approach that you're getting across to the team here is accurate and will yield results if everybody tries it. So I'm looking forward to giving the system a try.
Oh, great. Welcome again. Welcome to be part of this. Thank you. And we'll chat during the week. If anybody needs me, we're around. And if not, then next Wednesday, we'll have another session. Okay? All right. See you, everybody.
You're not looking to the thing.